That's right. You read it correctly. Number 274, our Sunday gathering is here right now. We welcome you from wherever you are in the world. We created our Sunday gathering 274 weeks ago to bring some short-term joy and inspiration and rather a dark time in our world. But we quickly found that this Sunday gathering is going to keep on rolling as long as we're here on planet Earth and even beyond. I'm sure we can pass that torch to others. I'm Sandra Champlain. If we haven't yet met, I'm joined today by just some fantastic people. Carrie McLeod and Phil Dykes are our mediums, our tutors, our friends. They began the Sunday gathering with me and are here at most of them. They will be providing our opening and closing prayers today, some inspirational words of the week, and then also our medium demonstration. We have a guest speaker today, and it's somebody I quickly just fell in love with. I had a wonderful interview with Kim Hodous, and I just knew that she's somebody that you guys and gals would love to hear from on our Sunday gathering. Professionally, she is the happiness speaker, and she's worked with big corporations, sharing messages of creating happiness in our lives. She's also a certified grief recovery specialist and coach. But not only that, she's a parent, and she's got two kids now in the spirit world. So how does one find happiness no matter what life throws at you? So I have a sneaky suspicion we'll hear her story and some words of that today. Also, we have a cause for celebration because her new book just came out this week and it quickly hit #1 in the grief class on Amazon. It's called Beyond Grief: How a Son's Afterlife Connection Transformed a Mother's Loss into a Remarkable Spiritual Journey. So congratulations, Kim, and it's a really great read. So with that, we're going to begin our Sunday gathering. We're here together for 90 minutes-ish. We'll explain what happens as we go along. So whether you're here for the first time or you're one of our returning Sunday gatherers, we welcome you. You're in good hands. So I'm going to pass it over to my friends for the opening prayer.
Thank you very much, Sandra, and it's lovely to get to meet you, Kim. Looking forward to your address and you sharing your story with us. But for the whole group of us here online, and if you're watching the recording, we'll enter into that space to whoever your God is, but we'll enter into it in prayer. Divine, ever-present Spirit, as we come into this space, this sacred space, where people from all around the world can gather in one place, a place that is full of hope, joy, happiness, reassurance, and love. A place that allows us to walk that path, knowing that we are hand in hand with our friends and family on the spirit side of life. As we carry on through this gathering, allow us to know, reassure us to know that our friends and family are right beside us, watching this and taking part with us. As always, in your name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And I will be doing the reading today. Here we go. It is called The Parable of the Musician's Flute. In a quiet valley nestled between ancient mountains. Let me start again. In a quiet valley nestled between ancient sleeping mountains, there lived a musician whose only possession was a flute. It was her treasure, carved from a single piece of sun-bleached wood, so smooth it felt like stone polished by the river. When she played it, it produced notes of pure, uncomplicated joy. She played songs for the sunrise. She played songs for the blooming of the first flowers, for the animals in nature, and for the kindness of a stranger. Her music sounded like morning light, like children's laughter, like all the easy, happy, joyful, and wonderful things in this world. The musician loved her flute for its flawlessness, for its perfect, unbroken voice. One afternoon, the sky turned a strange shade of bruised purple. A fierce and sudden storm swept through the valley with a wind that howled and tore at the trees. The musician sheltered in her small cottage, listening to the fury outside. Amidst the roar, she heard a sharp, violent crack that wasn't thunder. When the storm finally exhausted itself, she found its casualty. A heavy oak branch had fallen upon her bag, and her precious flute now had a thin, jagged crack running down its side like a frozen bolt of lightning. Her heart broke with it. She lifted the flute to her lips, her hands trembling, and tried to play one of her joyful sunrise songs, but only a sad, airy hiss escaped from the crack. The pure notes were fractured. The perfection was gone. In her grief, she tried to fix it, carefully filling the crack with beeswax, but the whisper of brokenness remained. Believing her flute and her joy were ruined forever, she wrapped it in a dark, soft cloth and put it away high on a shelf. The silence in her cottage was heavier than any storm. Months passed, turning into a year full of sadness. One evening, sitting in the quiet twilight and feeling the weight of her unspoken sadness, her eyes fell upon that shelf. On an impulse, she retrieved the flute. She unwrapped it, the familiar wood, feeling comfortable in her hands after so long. Her fingers, as if by memory, gently traced the roughed, scarred edge of the crack. She did not expect music. She just needed to feel close to what she had lost. She breathed a soft, sighing breath into it, the way one would comfort a child. The hiss was still there, but in the deep quiet, she noticed something new. When her fingers shifted slightly, feather light over the edge of the crack, the tone changed. When she softened her breath, the hiss harmonized with it, becoming a note of its own, a low, breathy echo that held a story. Intrigued, she stopped mourning what was lost and became curious about what remained. She stopped trying to play around the crack and began to play with it. She learned to use this instrument, flawed as it is, as a new voice in her choir. And from this brokenness, a new kind of music was born. It was not the simple joy of before. This music was deeper, richer, filled with layers of sorrows and strength, of resilience and peace. It contained the thunder of the storm and the quiet beauty of the survival. The new music moved all who heard it to tears, not with its sadness, but with its profound, breathtaking honesty. And isn't that the story in our own hearts? Life with its sudden storms will leave its mark on all of us. We may believe they have broken our ability to feel pure joy. But this story teaches us that our deepest, most resilient happiness is found not by ignoring our scars, but by learning to play our new music with them. For it is these very marks that give us our depth, our compassion, and a beautiful, soulful strength that perfection can never know. Thank you for listening to our reading. Now we're going to go into our healing segment. This is just an opportunity to listen to a most beautiful song. And doing so, we send healing, loving intentions, our prayers to where it's needed. I know there are people with us in our community that could definitely use your healing prayers, maybe even you. Also, we have friends and family, animals, there's places and people in the world that there's quite a bit of unrest. So I fully believe that the spirit world uses our human energy and can direct it to where it's needed, always. So the song we're going to hear is Here Comes the Sun, because no matter what is happening here on planet Earth, how many clouds and storms there may be, that sun is always shining. So we like to imagine people healthy, whole, and well, and maybe just this beautiful song hitting them, transforming all really into peace and health. After the song ends, the next voice you'll hear will be our new friend, our speaker, which is Kim Hodous. Let me find the song for you now.
Thank you so much. Sandra, you do such a beautiful job of picking the music. Here comes the sun. I love it, love it, love it. Ah, I wish I could just bottle you up and bring you home with me, Sandra. The work you do is so spectacular. You help so many people. So thank you for just keeping the sun shining for so many of us. Thank you. So a Sunday spiritual gathering. My daddy was a minister, and he was actually an active minister for 50 years. He was 76 when he passed, and he was still pastoring a full-time church and preached 2 weeks before he transitioned to the other side. So Sundays have always been important to me. And actually, the last time that I ever saw Rob, Sandra mentioned I have 2 children in spirit, and my 29-year-old son died in February of 2022. And the last time I ever saw him was giving him a hug goodbye in the narthex of the Presbyterian church that we attended at the time. So Sundays have always been special for me. And I feel like any gathering on a Sunday kind of takes on a little more of a spiritual bent to it. So I'm really grateful to get to share this sacred space with all of you from around the world. The stuff in the chat is just amazing. My daddy every Sunday, and I don't know how many hundreds of sermons I listened to. We don't call it a sermon, a Sunday talk, but he gave every talk he gave a title. So I wanted to give this talk a title. So the title this morning is Forgive Everyone All the Time for Everything. Most of you know from my bio and from what Sandra mentioned, I am a motivational speaker on the subject of happiness. And I have spent over 15 years speaking on, writing about, researching happiness. And forgiveness is a major component of that because it's really hard to be happy if you're carrying around a big old bag of anger and resentment, if you're feeling like a victim, if you've got a mindset of blaming people for where you are. Those aren't the right mindsets for happiness. And my whole body of work, my life's purpose is all about spreading happiness and making the world a happier place. Martin Luther King said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And that's what forgiveness does for us. Forgiveness drives out darkness and it drives out hate. And it allows us to shine our light brighter, to be true to ourselves, to focus on what matters. And when we drive out the darkness, we create more space for joy and happiness. And when we drive out hate and we love more deeply, both ourselves and others, our relationships improve and our life satisfaction and our overall well-being improve. And those things contribute hugely to our happiness. I think it's fun that both forgiveness and happiness end in ness. But when we take the ness off the end, we're just left with forgive and happy, because when we forgive, we become happy. The difference between forgiveness and happiness, one of the differences is that happiness is an emotional state, whereas forgiveness involves an emotional shift, but it requires a conscious decision to let go of negative feelings like anger and resentment. Forgiveness is a process. It's not a quick one-time fix, letting go of betrayal, anger, disappointment, resentment. That stuff takes time and patience. And I know if you're old enough to be on this gathering today, you are old enough to have experienced something that you have needed to forgive someone for. And I think sometimes people have a hard time with forgiveness because they confuse forgiveness with condoning the behavior. Forgiveness does not mean that you are approving or saying you're okay with someone's actions. And forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to give somebody the opportunity to do it again. If someone's hurt you in the past and you think they could do that again, then you don't have to keep them in your life. Jack Cornfield tells a story of 2 ex-prisoners of war. And one of the prisoners said to his buddy who had been in captivity with him, have you forgiven our captors? And he replied, "No, never." And then the first prisoner wisely responded, "Well, they still have you in prison then, don't they?" And we forgive because it sets us free. not the person who's harmed us or someone that we love. We forgive for our own benefit. And here's the thing that I have learned in studying happiness is that emotions are contagious. I always say a rising tide lifts all ships. So when one person becomes happier, the people around them also be happier. So when we forgive and we become happier, it's not work that we do that's selfish just for ourselves, because everybody around us benefits when we become happier. And when we forgive, we have greater access to that joy. So if you're in a place where you can say this out loud, I want you to say, I win when I forgive. So say that with me. I win when I forgive. And if you can't say it out loud, feel free to throw it in the chat, because I just want you to affirm that for yourself. Because when we forgive, we get the payoff. We forgive so that we can get on with our lives and experience greater joy and love and happiness. And I'm going to share a PDF, a really powerful forgiveness exercise you can do at the end. But I want to first talk about a couple things that we have to do if we're really going to start forgiving on a deep, authentic level. And one is we have to quit blaming. And in our society, we kind of have these what they call cultural thought forms. And our Western culture kind of teaches us to blame others instead of taking personal responsibility. I know one of the biggest scapegoats on the planet is parents. I've met 50 and 60-year-olds who are miserable and they are still blaming their parents for their unhappiness. I'm like, come on, man, it's time to let that go. They were doing the best they could with the information that they had at the time. You're the one who's still suffering. I was at a women's conference a few years ago, and I was talking to this woman who was really angry and bitter, and she was very overweight. And she's like, it was because of having my kids. I had these kids right in a row, and it was my babies, and I just kind of feel like it's their fault. And I said, oh, how old are your babies? And she said, well, they're in college now. I thought, oh, honey, again, we got to let that go. And in our culture, we're so quick to blame family, to blame people we don't know, to blame people that are different from us, to blame our neighbors. And our culture has gotten so good about it, we often will blame the government, we blame the weather, we'll blame corporate greed. But when we blame others, we're not able to take personal responsibility. I always taught my kids, I always said, if I spit on you, I don't make you mad, I make you wet. You get to choose how you react. And I know that can be hard in situations when you or someone you love has been harmed or wronged, sometimes even leading to their death. My son Rob died of a fentanyl overdose. He was sold fentanyl when he was told that he was buying heroin. Now, I could blame the man that sold Rob those drugs for Rob's death. I could resent him and I could hate him. But I share a lot of Rob's wisdom in this book. And one of the things that Rob said about, I have changed the name, but in here I have it as Nathan, of the man that sold Rob drugs. We don't get anywhere by spreading more hate and judgment. We change the world with forgiveness and love. Remember, love is all there is. That was my message from the moment I transitioned. Love is all there is. And Nathan needs your love more than ever. So love him, Mama. Give him your special brand of Mama love. Even if you only do it in letters or from a distance, you don't even have to do it in letters. Just send him love when you think of him. Be compassionate. Forgive him fully, Mamacita. You only hurt yourself if you hold on to the pain and resentment. Let that all dissolve into love for him. Give him what you've given me my entire life. That's how we change the world. So even from Rob, he doesn't blame from the other side. And the other thing he's shared is that we have to quit playing the role of the victim. He said, blame is an external projection. You're saying to someone else that's your fault. And when we become a victim, we take it within and use those circumstances as justification for being angry or having your life be a mess, or to get sympathy, or to play small, or stay scared. When I was only 30 years old, when my daughter died at the age of 2 of leukemia, and I realized at that young age, and not being very mature and having, the wisdom of 6 decades like I do now, I realized that the death of a child is one of the biggest wounds that we can experience. And I found early on, you could pull that wound out and you can use it to get your way. You can use it to get attention. You can use it to get out of speeding tickets. You can use it to get others to do things for you. And I realized really quickly as my personal growth, continued, that I was going to have to make sure that I didn't really use that painful experience as a way to manipulate and let it become a crutch to fall back on or to get sympathy or to get what I wanted. And you might be thinking, well, Kim, what about when something really bad happens? What about when someone really has done something awful to you, something that does make you feel victimized? And I have a program called Messages for Moms, where I help moms connect to their children in spirit. And I am not a medium. I look at Carrie and Phil in awe of their abilities. I'm not psychic. This is simply a way that you can connect with somebody that that you had a personal relationship with. But I had a mama in there whose child had been murdered. I have worked with a mama whose child died because of a mistake that a doctor made. So there are things that, there are times when we do really feel like we have been wronged. Um, and don't shoot the messenger. But we need to remember that everything happens in co-creation. Rob talks about this so much in his book. We choose our family. We choose our parents. I think before we incarnate, we look down and we go, oh, I'll take those two. They'll teach me what I need to know. And I'm going to choose that family in those circumstances because I'm going to learn a lot being in that household. I believe we choose our partners and our best friends. We choose those that love us and we choose those that hurt us. And I definitely believe we choose our children just as much as they choose us. And we agree to have certain experiences that our soul knows is going to help us grow this incarnation so that we can fully evolve into the person we're meant to be. And think about it. So many of those experiences are wonderful and beautiful and full of love. The time we get with our family, the fun we have with friends, those big life events like getting a first car or graduating, falling in love, winning an award, getting a promotion, so many good things we agree to experience. And then there are those painful things that we also experience. And these may not be things we choose as a human being in a body with the consciousness that we currently have. But we need to remember that we agreed to experience them. In the chapter in Rob's book on parenting, he says, remember, each child is born with their own contract, karma, destiny. Call it what you want, but we are all here to do things that are uniquely ours to do. 2 of my children have transitioned, and undoubtedly, those are the 2 most difficult experiences of my life. And I want you right now, just in your mind, to recall the 2 most painful experiences of your life. Just get those in your mind. And then I want you to think of the 2 experiences in your life where you have learned the most and grown the most. And for how many of you are those the same? In the body of work called positive psychology, they've done a ton of research on happiness, forgiveness, all the components that go into happiness. And one of the research experiments that they did was they had adults come in and they had them do what I just had you do, recall the most painful experience of their life. And then they said, if we gave you an eraser and you could erase that, would you? And interestingly, the majority of people said no, because they realized that those experiences were the things that they had really grown from. Now, most of us here had lost a loved one, and especially losing a child, which is kind of out of the natural order. If somebody says, would you change that? Obviously, the answer is yes, I would love to have my child here. But when I realized that Rob and Chelsea, they had their destiny. They made choices before they incarnated. They had their soul contract. And who am I to judge that or to think that they were wrong. They were powerful souls. And so it is about embracing them and their journey and not seeing it as wrong or bad, but to see it as part of their growth and their evolution and the beauty of what they chose. I choose to see my children's lives as whole and perfect, exactly what they chose this lifetime, so they could step into a greater understanding of their soul and their evolution. And so often, the things that we think we need to forgive are often things that, on some level, we can be thankful for. Think about that. Sometimes the things that we need to forgive are also the things that we need to be thankful for, because they're the events that have made us who we are, who have often opened our understanding and our wisdom and our knowledge and brought us to this very moment. My two children in spirit, got there in such very different circumstances. Chelsea was 2. She died of leukemia. She had the very best doctors. She went to the top in the world pediatric bone marrow transplant hospital. She only knew love and care her entire life. And we were holding her as she took her last breath. Rob was 29. He had had a very rocky 7-year journey with addiction. He died when one human intentionally sold him drugs that killed him alone in his apartment. And that is something else I've had to forgive Rob for, because he was an experienced drug user and he knew you never do drugs alone. Another thing, forgive, forgive, forgive. And I realized that I had forgiveness work to do with both of my kids, because sometimes we even need to forgive those in spirit, even when death wasn't really their fault. So Sandra is going to pop up a picture. This was my last family picture um, of all of us, and I don't know if I'll be able to see it or not. Um, and yes, there's our family picture. I just look at that picture and there I am. Don't judge the hair. Okay. That was cool back then. But our t-shirts all say, if you can't read them, our t-shirts all say, I helped Chelsea fight leukemia. And then that little peanut in the middle in the black shirt and the hat is Chelsea. And her shirt said, I am Chelsea. And and thank you, Sandra. You can leave that up or take it down. It doesn't matter. But so after Chelsea transitioned, that was taken just a few weeks before we left for Minneapolis. I was not in a good place. My friends had always called me Mary Poppins. I am just a glass half full kind of girl. And after Chelsea died, just fell into a pit of despair that I didn't know if I was going to be able to work my way out of. And, we often don't give men credit for knowing how to handle their grief, but my husband knew exactly what he needed to deal with his grief. It was a brand new Harley Davidson. He took that Harley and he and 2 buddies went on a 3-week trip around the country. And when he came back from that trip, when he roared back in our driveway, he was a different person. He looked different. His energy was different. I swear he even spoke different. He sounded different. Out there on that open road, something had happened for him. And I thought, well, maybe that's what I need. Maybe I need to go on a trip. So the very next week, I get this flyer in the mail, and it is from a woman called Beverly Tony Walters. It is called In Celebration of Your Total Womanhood. Well, I was not celebrating anything about life at that point, but I looked at that and I thought, I am supposed to go to this. I cannot tell you anything about that event except the final night. The final night of the event, she brings in a man named Rob Rob. Now, Rob was kind of the therapist, psychic to the stars. He had sessions with all the big name people. And he happened to be friends with the woman running the event. And so after dinner, there were, I don't know, 10 or 15 of us in this seminar. And I happened to be sitting on his right-hand side. And he started at the left and he started giving each woman a little session. 20 minutes, the women were crying and how'd you know? And that's just what I needed to hear. And they were having these amazing aha experiences. And I'm just sitting over here kind of thinking, what is he going to say when he gets to me? Because I was just a mess at that time. Well, by the time he gets to me, it's about midnight, and he turns and he looks at me and he says, "I feel so much pain coming from you. I would like to do your session in private in your hotel room." I thought, yeah, I bet you would, buddy. But once I cleared it with Beverly Tony Walters that it was safe to take this man up to my room, as we were walking to my room, I was telling him my experience about Chelsea, dying, and that I couldn't seem to get past it. I couldn't get on the other side. I was just sad and depressed, and I didn't know what to do. And the minute we got in my room, he took my hand and he took me into the bathroom. I know, keeps getting weirder, but he took me into the bathroom. He stands me, and it was this little hotel that hadn't been renovated. And I'm standing in front of this vanity, and there's a little mirror. And he said, "I want you to take your right eye, and I want you to look into your left eye, and I want you to see your daughter's soul there. And I want you to tell her that you forgive her." And I said, "Forgive her? She died of cancer. It wasn't her fault." And he said, "You know that up here, but here you're still holding on to all the pain and the hurt that she's caused. And you need to forgive her for going." And then he said what really hit me between the eyes. And then he said, "And then, Kim, you need to forgive yourself, because Chelsea's the one that died, but you're the one that's quit living." I don't know what magic happened, but I took my right eye and I looked into my left eye, and I saw Chelsea's soul. I saw my eternal soul. I saw anybody who had ever harmed me in any way, and I let it go, and I started to sob. I don't mean like just a few tears. I'm talking the snot's flying, my body was just going back and forth, and I was just wailing, and so, just having, and part of me thought, I wonder what the people in the next room think is going on in this bathroom at 1 a.m. But I believe it was in that moment that I truly started to heal from Chelsea's death. I experienced true, deep forgiveness of Chelsea, of the circumstance, of my life, of things going the way they had. And maybe the experience around your loved one's transition was beautiful. And, I was able to be with both my mom and dad, when they transitioned. And in many ways, it was beautiful to be there with them. Um, and if your situation was like that and it was beautiful, I'm so happy for you. I mean, count yourself blessed, because so often grief and pain get all tangled up with contradiction emotions of anger and resentment and loss and betrayal. Again, I've said, forgiveness is not a one-time thing. I had a lot of forgiveness work I had to do after Rob transitioned. Um, so on this past Wednesday, I had the book launch party for my book coming out. And I started the book launch party by playing a video of Rob. And I want to play that video of Rob so you guys can see who Rob was. So Sandra, you can go ahead and play that now. Oh, that was my boy. He was light, he was fun. Um, so I get to the book launch party practice. So I'm meeting the tech team there the night before the event. And I stand up we're doing a mic check and making sure the video will play. And I get hit with a wave of grief. I couldn't even talk, I couldn't speak. It was those, and I know if you're here, you've probably experienced this, that sobbing when it's almost like you're not making a sound. You are just crying so deeply. It was like I was crying the week after Rob died. I was just in such deep pain. And so I left the tech team, and I said, I have to go. I mean, I couldn't even function. And I got off and I called a really good friend, and I I was processing it with her, and what I realized was I was on some level just pissed off that I was having to have a party to celebrate a book written by my kid who was no longer here. I would just much rather have Rob back. And I had to forgive Rob all over again. I had to forgive all the pain. I know it was his journey. I know it was perfect. I know it was his soul contract. There was no one to blame. He was not a victim. And in the book, Rob talks about how we cannot short circuit our emotions. We have to feel them. I have to feel that anger. I have to feel the disappointment that his life didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I have to forgive him once again for the path he chose, for the path I chose. I have to forgive myself. I have to forgive myself for blaming him, for going into anger instead of love, for taking a step back when I've been doing so great moving forward. Forgiveness is an ongoing process. And, I think I've, got the box checked and then something happens. And, just as we always say, grief is a slippery slope, I think forgiveness is too. Um, so when you go online, you can find hundreds of ways to forgive. And Sandra's going to put a link in the in the chat box when where you can get a forgiveness exercise that I use. I use it with my coaching clients. It's really simple. It's really basic, but I can tell you it gets the job done. And the final thing that I want to tell you about forgiveness is that happiness follows forgiveness. If you think, our body is a vessel and our soul can only hold so many emotions. And if we are filling up this vessel, this space with anger, blame, resentment, judgment, then something good can't go in there. But when we can clear some of that out, when we can clear out that anger, that blame, that resentment by forgiving, happiness and joy and love and peace, oh, they can come flooding right in. Happiness always follows forgiveness. I just want you to remember that this week. When we forgive, we get the payoff, and happiness follows forgiveness. And who doesn't want more happiness in their lives? I think we all do. And one of the surefire ways to find more happiness is to forgive, forgive, forgive. And you remember how we started today? I titled my talk, Forgive Everyone All the Time for Everything. So that's my final message on this beautiful Sunday gathering to each of you. If you really want to experience true, abiding, intrinsic happiness, we've got to forgive everyone all the time for everything, including yourself. Mahatma Gandhi said, "The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is an attribute of the strong." So go forth this week, be your strongest self, and remember to forgive everyone for anything all the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kim. Everyone, she can't hear your applause, but if you press that raise hand button, that is a standing ovation, Kim.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
thank you
you. Thank
so
you.
much. And everyone who's watching us live, you saw the link in the chat box. If you're watching the replay, beneath where you're watching the replay, I also have that link for the forgiveness exercise. You can find out more about Kim at messagesformoms.com. And of course, the book is called Beyond Grief. She's got it 99 cents, the Kindle edition right now on Amazon. So it's just a really powerful, powerful read. All right, friends. Thank you, Kim. We are going to transition now to our demonstration of mediumship. And one of the reasons that we feel so strong about having a medium demonstration during our Sunday gathering is we can talk about how real the afterlife is, but it's an opportunity to just see in action just how close our loved ones are. And we got the best mediums in the world, my dearest friends, Carrie and Phil, with us today who teach. Their website is mymediumship.com. They both have over 25 years experience. They are just such loving souls. So if this is your first time with us, I'll give you some instructions. If you've been with us before, it's, just remember what I've said, just a refresher course. Those in the spirit world are with us. They continue to live and enjoy their life and explore and discover, but they're only a thought away and they're with us. I 100% believe they can multitask because they can do what they're doing and then also keep an eye on us, which we see so often. So today there will be some members of our community that will get medium readings today. However, most of us won't. You see how Carrie, Phil, Kim, and myself, we're called panelists on Zoom. So we're here on behalf of, we've got 156 people with us here right now. Now, those loved ones that are coming, working with Carrie and Phil, delivering these messages, I say they are panelists from the spirit world. So when these readings and the evidence comes through, please don't think, oh, this isn't for me, I won't listen. I 100% think that they're chosen for you because they have messages for their loved ones that apply to all of us. So please pull the readings towards you like this is just as important for your life as Kim's address just was. So whether it's Carrie or Phil who works, you'll hear them in their own way. They'll summarize a little description about the spirit person who has presented themselves to them. They work with their thoughts, their memories, pictures, voices, who knows. We are as individual in the spirit world as we are right here today. And we often see we do have our sense of humor. So we want everybody to be on the edge of your seat. When you hear the description of the person in spirit, I want you to listen in. Could this be your person? Now, it could be a loved one, could be a family member, could be a friend, could be somebody you went to school with, somebody you worked with, could be somebody a little distant. But you'll get that little tug on their soul, I think. That's how I call it. That's what I feel. That, oh, I recognize this person. So if you recognize all the information that's given, we want you to press your raise hand button. Now, I want to remind people, we have 156 people here. So if you hear, I have a mom in spirit who passed with cancer, and you can't take all the other information, don't raise your hand, okay? Just because, as you can imagine, we get quite a bit of hands that are raised to that bit of evidence. So we're going to trust our mediums. They do a wonderful job. If no one has their hand raised, well, they'll get some different bits of information. Or if many people have their hands raised, they will continue working so that we're down to one hand left raised. Now, I just asked you to press that raise hand button, but if you'd like to have a little bit more practice with it, go ahead and press it again. And I'll tell you why. Because what you see is it says raise hand. Now, suddenly it says lower hand. And this is important because if all of a sudden you could take all that original information, but then something else is spoken, oh, I can't take that. You're going to want to lower your hand. So we work together. Sometimes technology fails us, but you know what? After 274 of these, we just roll with it. We can forgive Zoom, right? We win when we forgive. And sometimes it's Zoom that we have to forgive with the technology. So with that, when we find our last person standing with their hand up, I send a little signal over to your device and you'll get a pop-up with an unmute button that will appear. And it's like, host would like you to unmute. Simply press that. Your camera stays off. Don't worry, we will not see you, but we do love to hear your voice. Now, if you're on our Sunday gathering or you ever get a medium reading anytime in the future, your job is easy but tough. We want you to resist trying to explain who your loved one was. All we want you to do is say yes, no, or I don't know to the information that comes. Right now in the world, we're trying to boost the level of mediumship and integrity. So we want the mediums to do the work, all right? We want to hear these shared memories and the evidence, and we want you to say yes, but it's okay if something's wrong and you say no. Carrie and Phil teach in their classes that no simply means new opportunity. So we do want you to be honest with us. We want everybody to leave the Sunday gathering knowing that Carrie and Phil are working with our loved ones in the spirit world. They truly are. And that you didn't volunteer all that information. So just a yes, no, or I don't know. And for the rest of us, you may not get a reading. Like I said, please treat it like this person in spirit was handpicked just for you to hear whatever message that comes through, or to witness just how close they are. They are parts of our lives. They are, as Kim was talking about, Rob and Chelsea, they're very much still alive. So we're going to play one more song, and what's more appropriate than happy, because we've got the happiness speaker here today. So it's Pharrell's Happy. And then we will have our demonstration of mediumship. Okay. So when the music plays, I always like to just picture my loved ones all cozy and dancing around me and just feeling happy, or take a walk down memory lane to some happy times, or just listen to the song. But we'll just raise the roof of the energy here. Let me bring in Pharrell, and then we'll be right back with our demonstration with Carrie and Phil. Anyone else dancing in their seats? I know I am, and I think you can see me do it. Well, we have two of the happiest people on planet Earth, Carrie and Phil. Woo!
Do that again, Sandra. Woo!
Woo! Anytime.
It is an absolute pleasure to be here. Just going to change how I've got my viewer up. So we have a little bit of a confession to make. We didn't watch your address, but we will be watching it. The reason being, we didn't want to hear anything that would in any way affect, should anybody you know come in. We assumed that you would speak about your children and your family members, perhaps. So please forgive us, but we will watch it as soon as Sandra sends the recording to us, Kim. Thank you very much.
You're forgiven. I've gotten really good at it.
So it's incredibly humbling to be here with yourself, Kim, who we will know your story in good time. But we know that there are people here for the first time, and I would imagine that it's some kind of loss that's brought you here. So it's always humbling to be able to work on behalf of the spirit world. I feel as I was working with the spirit world, sitting with the spirit world a moment earlier, I felt a young man here. I do feel like he would be son. I feel like he would have passed with a heart condition. And I actually feel that this would have been whilst at the gym or exercising in some way. I don't feel this is a young child, but I do know that he was a young man. He was well before the time that he, you would think, would have a heart attack. I feel like it is, there is something, because I got this really overpowering pain in my chest. Would somebody in our audience understand that, Sandra?
Thank you very much, Carrie. If you can understand that individual, please press your raise hand button. All right. We have Liza with her hand raised. Liza, if you can find that unmute button. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi. I don't know what I'm
Right?
supposed to say.
No,
Just
that's
yes,
okay.
no.
You're in
Okay.
good hands. Let me do the talking. So you understand everything I've said, Liza?
Yes.
Okay, just let me work through it.
Okay.
So you have a son in the spirit world,
Yes, I do.
and he would have had this heart during exercise or at the gym or undergoing some kind of exercise.
It wasn't during an exercise, but yes, it was his heart. And yes, a young man.
Then he must have been a young man who took pride in how he looked.
Yes.
Because I saw him at the gym, and I know my husband is very muscly here.
What are you after?
But your son took care of himself, if I put it
Yes.
that way.
Yes.
Don't get jealous, my dear. I know your son as well had this personality that I'm sure when we hear Kim's address, we'll appreciate this happiness. But your son did bring happiness to people.
Yes, very much.
I know too, Kim, with your son, he would have wanted everybody in the family, particularly, to be happy. It feels like he took responsibility for making people happy.
Very much so, yes.
I know he's very protective of his family, but especially of you.
Yes, I'm sure.
I want to say that your son would have had, I know that there would have been elements of your son's life that he didn't share with you, one, because he was a grown man. But I know that he is, I'm just trying to understand what he's showing me. He must have played for, I don't know the sport, but a team that played on a green pitch.
No.
Okay. I don't know if basketball was on a pitch. Would he have
It's on a
played
court.
He
basketball,
did
Liza?
he did play basketball every single day, but
Okay,
not on a team. Okay.
okay. Then because I can my bad for saying it wrongly, but I just saw him. He used to again and again and again and again.
Oh my goodness.
Is it throw hoops?
Yes. 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 Yes.
I want to say he was good.
He was.
I'm following what he's doing, and he's this side, he's that side, he's in front. He must have had a party trick that he could look and then turn back and do that.
Yes. Yes.
And he rather liked this being the center of attention.
Mm,
I rather think he liked the way that he could, is that what you call it, shoot hoops?
yes.
Okay. I think he rather liked
Yes.
being seen for doing this. But I also know that he had this element of him. Your son must have had a period of time in his life where he really struggled with his mindset and being positive.
Yes.
Because I feel that in his soul, and I know that you would have been there for him. And I feel an incredible sense of gratitude to you for that. I also need to say that from the spirit world, your son gives me the impression that somebody subsequent to his passing has also had a similar experience. Because I
Yes.
feel like you've been supporting them. It's your son's way of saying, I see what you do. You're still doing what you always did. I know, would you understand the name James in the spirit world, Kim? Lisa.
James. Not
Lisa,
all.
would you understand Dad in the spirit world?
My father-in-law.
Okay. If you look that side of the family, I know the James is there, the Jim is there. But if I were to say that your father-in-law, him and your son got on really well.
They didn't know each other.
Then if they didn't know each other, then they have very similar personalities. Upbeat, positive, not wanting to be negative. I can hear the no coming.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay,
I wouldn't say that they were the same here. Maybe they are now in spirit world.
I can only work evidentially for what you know for as they were here. Then, Lisa, you would know another gentleman in the spirit world that was very positive, very upbeat, very positive minded.
Well, that would be my son. I was thinking of my father-in-law as not being positive
Okay.
or upbeat.
I thought I felt a change. If I didn't, Lisa, then your son would have been different when it was just you and him, because I feel a vulnerability there with him.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But that vulnerability wasn't shown to many others.
He was more introverted with others.
But I know with you, he spoke his truth. He was always open. And I know that you spoke at his celebration of life.
Yes.
And he's ever so proud that you were able to get through the words that you said and still laughed at points through it
Yes.
and honored him just the way you knew he would want to be honored. And I know you must have your son's sport shirt or top.
Yes.
And you also have your son's ring.
Not a ring. I have him in a necklace.
And on that necklace, did he keep a ring on that necklace?
No.
No. Then, but he had a ring, Lisa.
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. I'm very clear on what I see. I'm not going to give you a ring that doesn't belong to you,
No,
so don't
I'll write this
worry.
down because this may come up later.
But I do know I don't ask many people to hold on to many things, but just watch where there's going to be talk of a ring
Okay.
in a good way, not a bad way.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to leave that with you, Lisa, and say thank you very much for allowing me to meet your son.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, I do believe I have husband here. I know his husband works with me. I know his hands are thick. He's got very thick fingers. And I do know that he wore a very thick wedding band. I need to say as well that he had a similar haircut to my lovely husband here.
I've been picked on tonight.
I only in the best way. I do feel that your husband didn't shave off everything that was at the back, or he was completely away here and he used to let this bit grow back on the odd occasion. And I also know that you must still have your husband's suit. And I know the name Michael. And I don't feel it is your husband's name, but I know the name Michael is very closely connected with your husband. Does this make sense to anybody in our audience?
Thank you very much. All right, friends, if you understand the information, please press your raise hand button. And we'll be patient. Awkward silence. No hands up just yet, Carrie.
When I say the hands, I know that he was, I would describe it as cuddly. He had just a few extra pounds on him. I know that he would have enjoyed sport as well. And I also know he would have enjoyed the odd tinny or the odd little stubby beer. I don't feel he was a big drinker, but I do know he would have enjoyed the odd little beer in front of the television watching sports. And I do feel, where's the Red Sox?
Boston.
I do feel on the East Coast.
Thank you. Does this information make sense to someone? Are you getting
If
that
I'm
little
not,
nudge?
if I've not got that completely correct, I am willing to drop the relationship for the moment, but I do know I have a gentleman here. He would have been heavy built And I know he would have been on the East Coast, up near Boston, or been a Red Sox fan. And he would have had this habit of watching them with this little beer. Get ready, Phil. It might be your turn soon. I do believe somebody's not putting up their hand, or they've gone to answer the door, or they're on the phone. Yes, you. I have him very clearly here.
Oh, that message from Marilyn, it's something else. I can take some of it, Carrie, but I just don't think this is him.
Okay.
But I just
So
want to
I've got a
volunteer.
Yep, I've got a gentleman. He's got a few extra pounds on him. That's the way he gives me this impression. I know he would have been. I do feel I'm. What is it? Baseball or basketball? Red Sox?
No, it's
Baseball.
baseball. Yeah.
Baseball. I do know that there must have even been. I don't want to get too much more. I cannot change too much of that. I know I've got a Red Sox baseball cap. I'm dropping the relationship, but I do know everything else has to stand. So if you understand this gentleman, put up your hand and we'll work together on it. Don't be frightened. I don't bite. Okay, if we don't have anybody here for that.
Nanette has her hand raised. Nanette, if you could press your unmute button. Hello.
Hey, this is Nanette.
Hi, Nanette.
I can take everything except having a beer.
And do you know
oh,
it to
wait,
be, and
sorry.
you understand it as husband as well?
No, it is not husband.
Okay, but you understand, you knew him well?
Yes.
Okay, then he must have religiously watched the Red Sox.
Yes.
And I feel like there would have been an investment with him in terms of when they won, he was ecstatic. When they lost, he picked every fault at what people should have done.
Yes.
And he's incredibly verbal then, but I don't feel he's incredibly verbal the rest of the time, because I kept on going back to him and he wasn't giving me any more. So when people talk about him, he was very private about personal details.
Yes.
And I know that this is what people would have known about him. I also know there must have been questions about his passing.
No.
Then something doesn't feel right here.
Yeah, it might not be the right one. It's okay.
I'm not understanding him fully. Nanette, would you know somebody else in the spirit world that passed and there was a question over how they passed?
No. Everybody that passed kind of passed the way they were supposed to, I guess.
Okay.
Carrie, I can still take all that information,
Oh,
but well,
You go for it.
yeah, my gut instinct is he's already come through, so I don't know if this is it, but I just wanted to let you know in honesty.
can I work with it, Sandra?
Sure,
I
absolutely.
don't, you understand? So would that Red Sox gentleman be your dad?
It would not.
Okay, because I was going to say, it doesn't feel like your
It was a
dad.
partner. No, yeah.
Okay.
And I can take all the information.
Okay, then you would know that there's questions over his passing.
Yes.
And I feel like they're in those questions, and it does feel better. So thank you for volunteering. I'm sure the audience doesn't mind. And I haven't communicated on behalf of this gentleman before, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I know with him, there's a sense of incredible privacy,
Yes.
and not very many people knew much about him.
Yes. Correct.
And I get this feeling that there is, because I couldn't get any more out of him, and I know that he would have shared things with you, and you would have had very, very deep conversations.
Yes.
And I do know that he feels like he needs to apologize to you. And from the depths of his soul, there's an apology here. One, he mustn't have done something he promised he would do for you.
True. Yes.
And I feel like he was a bit flippant, like he didn't really have the value of life.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, from where he is now, there is an incredible appreciation of life. And from his side of life, he sees how much light you put out there. If we're known by the Spirit world by our light, you light a lot of lights over there. And he's ever so proud to be part of that with you.
Thank you.
And I know that you've forgiven him, because there must have been a talk about forgiveness, because he's just referred to the address.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to leave that with you, Sandra. Thank you for accepting the contact, and I'm going to pass to Phil.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Thank you, everybody. Absolutely wonderful to be here as always. And I'm sure what Kim said before will be absolutely fantastic. We do make that promise to listen to it as well. So as I become aware of the spirit world, I know I've got Father with me. And I know with Father, I get the name of Peter. So I know Peter should be Father. I also know he's a very frank, outspoken gentleman. And I know he says what he thinks as well. And I also get the impression that, again, I know Kerry talked about tins of beer here. I know he liked to have a tinny beer because I know he was very sociable as well. But I also feel that he passed very quickly, and I know it was very unexpected as well. So I know I have Dad. I should be with his name of Peter. I know he liked that social drink, nothing more than that. In fact, I know the beer should have been something like Miller Lite, very, very almost non-alcoholic, if that's what it is. But I know here, I know he passes quickly as well. And I also get the sense of where he would have lived as well would have been either the name of the road would have been named after a tree or trees. I know here that's important as well. So do we have somebody that understands?
Thank you, Phil. If you understand this information, go ahead and press your raise hand button, please. I feel everybody thinking, but we don't have a hand raised yet.
It should be straightforward. Then I've done something wrong if nobody understands that. So only thing that I can do is drop that relationship. So I know Peter is the name of the person that I've got. I know here that he was very sociable. I know he would have drunk that Miller Lite, I think it is, or Bud Light, whatever it is. I know here where he lived would have been named after trees or the area of the road. I know that as well. And I actually feel as well with him that he wouldn't be averse to either tinkering with car engines as well, because I keep on seeing the hood up on either an SUV, I think it is, or a van, a pickup, as we would call it over here.
Thanks, Phil. Who understands this gentleman? Peter. Gina has her hand raised. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Gina, if you can find that unmute button. Hi, Gina.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Great. Thank you.
Hello, Gina. Nice to hear your voice. Do you understand everything I've said?
Just about.
Just
The
about.
name of the beer is
Yep.
not quite right. He wouldn't have drank light beer, but he would have drank beer, and it was not a tree named street.
Ah, because I know here there's something about that. There's something familiar about that name of that street in some way to do with either the local area. Would that make sense?
I mean, it's a well-known road. I can't think
Okay,
of the
just
name
just
right
let
now.
me go with this. But he
Okay.
was a very sociable man, though, wasn't he?
Yes.
And it's almost where he would entertain and talk to everyone over a beer.
Yes.
Then if I got the name of the beer wrong, then would you understand where he could hold his beer? As in drink a lot
Yes.
of it. Yep.
Mhm.
Because I know here it doesn't seem to affect him. And I get the sense, though, there would be memories of him tinkering with car engines.
Yes.
And because it's almost where he's telling me a good game, so I know that he understands them. And I also feel that he's got people's confidences as well. People admired him.
Yes.
And I also feel because not just the way that he was, and also with the car engines, I know he would help other people out.
Yes.
Because I know there's a selflessness with him that it's almost I want to get stuck in and be involved. So I know everyone in that community where he lived would have known him.
Yes.
There's something I keep on going back to, and I know you said no to the name of the street. Where he lived, would it be right in saying there was a large tree in front of that house?
There were lots of trees there.
Because I know it's a suburb. I know there's something to do with this. And I'm just going through my head with something, but it's just not formulating. But I know it's important. I also believe he liked his garden, his yard. Please say no.
No.
Good, because I knew I was wrong. There must have been where he loved to either blow the leaves or he had the machines and light the machines to do that kind of thing.
No.
Oh.
You did ask for a no.
I did ask for a no, but I got a no. But I know it. The thing is, I can't get away from it because I can see what he's doing. But I know here that he's got this sense about him of if it's not him doing it, other people round about would have done their lawns and things pristine, but he didn't.
No.
Gina, would it be right in saying he could talk in such a way that he comes across perfectly?
Yes.
Because I know it's almost in his mind, he did these things and he helped out and all this went on. Then if that's not the case what I got the nose for, then he must have been able to talk to anybody in a conversation and paint himself in a light that was always positive.
Yes.
And if I said that sometimes he wasn't as good as he said,
I don't know.
because I know here, if I said he liked his own time watching the TV with the feet up as well.
Yes.
Because I know here, just all of a sudden, now I've got an understanding of him. I feel that somebody would have told him he had to do these things, but he never did them. Would you know that?
No.
You wouldn't. Because I know here there's just this impression with him. But I also feel as well that he would never be fazed by anything. He was always seemed to be in control.
Yes.
And I also know that he always was positive.
No.
Oh. Then if he wasn't positive, then there must be times where actually he talked more positive than he was.
That's right.
That's fine, because I know here he's coming across this way and painting himself this way, but I know here it's just that impression that I get with him. But I know he's around you trying to almost correct his ways, so I know he is bringing that positivity in for you and that upliftment as well. And I also know where you're quite the opposite. You don't talk things up, you rather do things.
Yes.
And I know that's why he's coming in, because he says, I need to make amends and do things as well. So I'm going to leave his love with you and say thank you very, very much for allowing me to do that, but also making me work so hard.
Thank you so much.
You're absolutely welcome. You're absolutely welcome. Good, 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 good. Okay. So bear with me 1 second, ladies and gents. Okay, you want to drink as well. As I become aware of the spirit world once more, I know here that I want to talk about mum in the spirit world. I know that mum, that's fine. Mum was very precious about her jewelry. And I know the person I want to speak to has all the jewelry, and I'm talking about rings, I'm talking about necklaces, I'm talking about earrings. And I also feel there's some old-fashioned things in there that belong to her mother as well. And I also know with mother, her looks and the way that she presented herself was very important. But I need to stress she was not vain. That's the impression that I get with her. But I also understand as well, she would have been on committees and either associations like the homeowners association. And I know that she loved that sort of thing where she was in charge as well. So I know I'm going to be in the United States. So somebody would have mum in the spirit world. I also feel, just before I stop, I also feel there was a cancer that took her to the spirit world, but these home associations and the jewelry should also be important as well.
Thank you, Phil. All right, who understands this information? You know what to do. Press that raise hand button, please. No hands up yet, Phil.
That's absolutely fine. The only thing that I can do, again, is drop the relationship. Now, we can make mistakes with the relationship, but the other stuff should be absolutely correct, because that's the impressions that I've got with her.
Gina has her hand back up. Hello, Gina.
Hi.
Hello,
You can
Gina. Must
understand
be you're
this?
looking at. You understand all this?
Everything but the cancer.
Everything but the
The
cancer.
relationship.
Say again that last bit.
The relationship is correct.
The relationship's correct.
Yes.
Then
We also
The
have
original relationship, Mom.
yeah, it doesn't feel just right. Just like, we
Okay.
got somebody else coming in as well,
yeah,
Sandra?
and keep listening, Gina. Christy, you
Yes.
have your hand raised. Hi, Christy.
Hi. Yes, so my mom did have cancer and she was on a homeowners association in the past. What was the last piece of evidence?
And there was jewelry as well was important to her.
She
you-
wasn't vain, but she definitely liked to look nice, and but she didn't have a lot of jewelry. No.
Okay, but I know that there's still, you must have her jewelry, Christy, or
Yes.
jewelry still
Yeah.
here. That's fine, because I know she wasn't vain, but I know she liked it. And again, that home association. But with your mum as well, the way that she liked to look nice was about setting positive attitudes and positive meetings with people. She always wanted to be right to meet people.
Yes.
Because I know it's really important. And it's that almost that sense where I want to say first impressions count.
Yes.
And I also know with your mum, it's something she's instilled in you, and she used to preach about, not preach, but mention.
Yes.
Also, your mum was very thoughtful and thorough as well.
Very much so.
Because I know everything that's happening now is slowed down for me. She likes time to think. So there must be memories where things could be in a bit of a drama around her, but she would take her time to think things through.
Yes.
I also know that family was important for her as well.
You said was important to her?
Family was important, having the family around her.
Extremely.
I know here, and I want to talk about towards the end where the family must have come together to support her.
Yes.
And would I be right in saying towards the end, your mother wasn't able to speak or wasn't conscious?
Yes, when she was in the hospital, she was.
Because I know here the family must have been around then.
Yes.
because she says, I couldn't respond, but I could hear the conversations going over. And I know some of those conversations were quite humorous as well.
Maybe sometimes.
Because I know there was memories of the olden days where she made mistakes. Thank you, bear with me. There must be where mum made royal mistakes at times, but never admitted it.
Yeah.
Because I know they were talked about, because she's repeating it back to me here. And where I said the family was important, being together on birthdays and things was a big deal to your mum.
Oh, yes.
And I know here that your mum was very sentimental.
Yes.
And I also feel that mum would have kept cards and little keepsakes and notes from yesteryear as well. And I
Yes.
also get the impression mum was a big one for photographs of the children yourselves.
Yes.
And I also know that these photographs would have been from school, sporting days and things.
Yes.
And I also feel that she wasn't just that. She didn't throw away some of your, Christy, your younger year. You're still young, don't get me wrong. But I don't feel she threw away like some of your children's clothes, and she would have kept them as sentimental values.
Yes.
I also feel as well that she kept, you did well at sports at school yourself, Christy.
Yes. Yes.
Because she's kept all these little bits of memorabilia of little awards that you won.
Yes.
And would I be right in saying that you did really well at swimming as well?
Yes.
Because I know she's got all the little swimming memorabilia that she kept. And your mum was a big one, not for keeping a journal or diary for herself, but little mementos when you won things and people in the family did things.
Yes.
Because I know here, she says, my mind is fine, because I know people questioned her mindset towards the end. She says, my mind is clear. And I know there should be a little book that's left with dates and things of your mother's. And it's not just birthdays, it's of dates of events.
Yes.
And you must have, Christy, her telephone book.
I do.
Because I know here, she says, I had a number for everybody I needed and then some. So she always knew who to ring for whatever she needed.
Yes.
Your mum also must have not lived too far away from the local shops as well.
Yes.
Because I know she would have known those store owners. And when you were little, she must have sent you to the shops.
I think so.
Because I know she could send you because she knew them that well. And I know it's all about community. I know it's all about understanding that mum wants to bring in. And the thing about family is they're the ones you can rely on, and they're the ones that bring the happy memories back to us. And she's joking about you. There must be pictures of you, Christy, in when you were younger, I mean, really young, where, let me understand it, you must have sisters as well, siblings.
I have a sister, yes.
That's fine. And you must, good old-fashioned thing of the United Kingdom here, they must have, clothes must have been shared.
Yes.
And I know there's pictures of you, like I said, when you were younger, sharing some of your sister's clothes that were too big.
I think so.
Because I know here it's almost like mum's understanding of happy days, how the family came together, the family shared, and what the family can do for ourselves. And I know you still have, and if I'm right with this, a lock of your mum's hair.
I don't know. Maybe my sister does.
I know it's still here.
I think so.
And one of the things, just before I leave you, you must have given your mum a kiss just before you left her.
I think so, yeah.
And I know it wasn't just about saying goodbyes, it's leaving. And I know everyone is upset when they say their goodbyes and leave them. But I know when you kissed your mum, I know there was tears on her face because she says, I took a little bit with me as well.
Yeah.
I know there's a tremendous admiration, a tremendous love here. But I know there's other ladies in the spirit world with your mum, because as I'm leaving this with you, I can hear them gassing and talking in the back, there's a little bit of a gaslighting situation in the family because they're discussing it. Understand?
Possibly.
Because I know here it's just that sense. So I'm
Yeah.
going to leave her love with you, knowing she's very strongly with you. And those photographs and everything of your mums between you and your sister, you must have them.
I do.
Good, because she says treasure them because she treasured you. I'm going to leave that love with you and say thank you so much to
Thank you
working
so
with me,
much.
Christy. You're
Thank you
absolutely
so much.
welcome. You're absolutely welcome. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we love working for the spirit world. We love what we do, and we love to be part of the Sunday gathering. It brings so many people so much upliftment. But to make a difference in this world, to share our little bit of light, helps others, and that brings us so much joy. So thank you, Sandra, and everybody. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We can press our raise hand button for Carrie and Phil as well. Folks, it's not easy. You put yourself on the skinny branches doing mediumship. And he's also, for our friends in the unseen world, this could be the first time that they've worked with a medium. You know, what would you say when you're over there, and what thoughts and images to describe you? Very interesting and but very comforting. Our loved ones are alive. They're well. It's a tough road we walk being human beings, but I promise you we will see them again, and they are parts of your lives now. So keep talking to them. So some announcements that I have coming up. Great things. First of all, Carrie and Phil are our medium tutors at we-don't-die.com. They have a website, mymediumship.com. For me, I think one of the best ways to believe in the afterlife is to take a course yourself. You never need to put up a shingle and become a medium, but you get to see just how our loved ones work and the subtle ways that they come through our thoughts, our feelings, our memories, pictures in our mind, and all of that. Carrie and Phil will be traveling in July. So our dear friends, Tim Southwell and Shirley Ann Sharp, are going to be running the psychic medium class that we'll have in July. It'll be 5 2-hour classes. You can join live or you can watch the replays. Of course, that is called Awakening Your Spirit Connections. So whether you're a longtime practicer or brand new to it, please join. There's 2 wonderful folks, Tim and Shirley Ann, that you've met on the Sunday gatherings. As a matter of fact, you sure have. And then August, Carrie and Phil will be back. But there's much to see on their website, mymediumship.com. You can also meet them live, whether it be in New Mexico, Florida, New Jersey, or England. Lots going on there. Also, coming up with us this Thursday, we have Kath and Mitch Shirley, who are both mediums, but they're also advanced grief recovery specialists. They do what's called a free 90-minute grief cafe. This is not recorded. This is just a time to really learn about grief, to explore, to hear stories, to share if you wish. You don't have to, but they're really incredible opportunities. So you can find that. Just go to we-don't-die.com. That's my main website. You can see everything that's coming up, even register for our next classes. Just go to the store page. There's also a Carrie and Phil page. There's a Sunday gathering page where you can watch upcoming, or you can watch past Sunday gatherings, and also you can register for upcoming ones. A shout out to our friends who have donated to make this possible today. Thank you. You know who you are. If you ever wish to donate to the Sunday gathering, you can find that on the Sunday gathering page at we-don't-die.com. And if you don't yet have a copy of my book and you want a free PDF copy, just go to we-don't-die.com, scroll to the bottom. There you can enter your name and your email address. It says it's the first few chapters. It's the whole book. Chapter 10 is about grief, and it's one of the most important things because I know we do feel such pain of grief. Also on that homepage, you're going to find my recent interview with our guest speaker today, Kim. There's also an episode that I did of Shades of the Afterlife on Jeffrey Mishlove, who is the #1 prize-winning author from that Bigelow Institute. A few years ago, they did a $1 million contest for evidence of the afterlife. So I feature his work on that. Again, it's all and more at we-don't-die.com. So I'm going to pass it over to Carrie and Phil for some words for the week, and then also our closing prayer.
Well, I'm not going to say too much about being happy because I believe that you heard it all earlier on. What I will say is, if we are if we are our authentic self, then we will be truly present. I know that happiness is a state of mind and it is a choice. And if you choose to hang on to things that bring you pain, that's a choice. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to let go of things, but it's harder to hold on to things sometimes than it is to let go. So I'm hoping that today and Kim's talk has helped you, allowed you to progress, and we've once again been part of something very special. We leave the Sunday gathering in Sandra's bare hands for the next few weeks, and we'll stay in touch. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time where we come together again to celebrate life itself from that Sunday gathering. So if you can join me by bowing your heads, going into that divine silence and thinking of your loved ones, how they inspired you to be the very people that you are today. Gracious Spirit, we thank you for that blessing of communion, but also that upliftment that has been brought to you today through the talks, through the energy that is provided. We ask for that healing to take place, not just within ourselves, but for others around us. As we know, with that positive thought, with that positive thinking, we can change the way of this world. We can bring that truth, that light, that upliftment into this world by just living that purpose. It has again, Father, been that pleasure to be within your light, within your love. And as always, we ask to be kept safe until next time we meet under the banner of the Sunday gathering. Amen.
Thank you so much, Phil and Carrie, and our wonderful guest, Kim, you folks at home, and our friends in the spirit world. Now, as we go into our closing song, I feel sometimes we need to go looking for our own happiness. So sometimes I look at America's Got Talent videos on YouTube. So this is one of my favorite songs, Don't Stop Me Now by Queen, but it's done in a very interesting way. So, yeah, these are robotic dogs. And I just love it. And this video makes me happy. So I'm hoping it makes you happy as well. Thank you all so much. And again, thanks to Kim and Carrie and Phil and you guys at home. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.